What's up, everybody? Welcome to the weekly Neural DSP stream. How's everybody doing this week? Got some pretty fun things happening right now. I'm sure you guys are going to be asking a lot about what is the upcoming, sooner stuff going on the Facebook and socials and stuff like that. As you all know, I can't really talk much about it, but you feel free to guess. I will enjoy watching everybody talk about it in the comment section. So how has everybody's week been? Let's go through the chat. Diego M says, "Hey Steven, all right. Greetings from Italy. I'm thrilled to know that you're putting out a new product on the market. In these dark times, it's something that makes me happy. Thank you." No, we are adamant on carrying on as business as usual. I think that it is even more important during these times that we continue to push forward and continue developing our product and continue servicing our customers, because you guys are important to us. So we always want to make you guys happy, and we know that continuing our work is going to make you guys happy. So super stoked on it, man. Itai dropped in about 20 minutes before the stream started and said, "Hey dude, can't stay this time, but have a nice stream." And thanks for dropping by, dude. I don't know if you're gonna rewatch the stream or not, but yeah, thanks for stepping in, man. Good to see you. Raimundo says, "I tried the Abasi with the Fluence pickups. Is the best clean. So good at the sound." He says, "Talk about this plugins. What would you like to know?" I mean, I got some knowledge in the back here about the plugins, so I'm curious what you want to know about them. So yeah. Carl, what's up, dude? How's it going, man? Modern Vintage, how's it going? He says, "Hey, Steve, hope all is well. Thanks for another weekly stream." It's my pleasure, dude. As I said, I mentioned before on previous streams that this is among my favorite things to do on this channel. Like, I mean, obviously I get to like write music and that's all fun and stuff like that, but like getting to like just chat with you guys on a weekly basis is actually like one of the more enjoyable aspects of my position here. So, yeah, thanks for dropping in. I mean, like, this stream wouldn't be as awesome if you guys weren't here, basically. Like, that's also like there's a give and take where you guys make it super enjoyable. Let's see. Sorry, I just finished with a quesadilla, so I'm still like getting stuff out of my teeth. Was that necessary information? Probably not, but it's all good. Yeah, so Carl says, "There's nothing better than joining Neural DSP live stream with whiskey drink after a long and hard day at work." I feel that, dude. In fact, I might join you with a beer in a few minutes. I'm actually like right in the middle of filming for this product that's coming out pretty soon. Should probably just point this more towards my face. Make it a little bit better. But yeah, so I'm actually like in the middle of filming. Like, you'll see my light panel is right here. I actually got like my monitor and my camera off to the side over here because I'm doing some tone breakdowns. I've already did the talking bit, and now I just got to do some audio demos. So maybe I think I might join you for a beer in a little bit. Matthias says, "Hey guys, what's up? Hope nobody's tried to swallow bleach or disinfectant in order to kill the virus." Oh boy. Oh. It just hurts my heart. And not because I drank and disinfected or bleach. It just like, I can't. This is why I don't pay attention to the news very much. I keep mindful of the general trends and topics and stuff like that. But once that hit my my perception, I was just like, nope, I don't want to hear it. I don't want to know about it. I don't care. Like, add this to the pile of things that he said. That's just like, I don't care. I can't deal with it. I'd rather just focus on this stuff here, working with you guys and working on good content and whatnot. So anyway, yeah, it's just amazing the things that dude says. Scotty Dog, what's up, dude? Brandon Sills, what's up, man? Good to see you. Modern Vintage says, "The Neural coming soon and Guess Again posts are just made quarantine exciting for the first time. Thanks for releasing a new plugin during this time, guys." Yeah, man. I love that Doug has been super communicative with not only just the Neural DSP staff, but also like if you follow his Instagram, which I suggest that you do. He's also been very, very vocal about like the state of affairs is that everything is still going forward as planned. If not, we are actually kicking it up into high gear so that way we can continue putting out more content and more products for you guys to enjoy. You know, this is not an easy time for people, and even if there's just like a little bit of something that we can do to make this time better for everybody, then we're gonna fucking do it. So awesome. Mr. Kiami says, "Hey all, am I the only one jamming along to the intro right now on my guitar?" Yeah, dude. Honestly, like I really do want to create a song on my own, kind of emulating the tones from that intro track. I love it. Scotty Dog asks, "Archetype Rebea?" Question mark. I think it's safe for me to say no. Raymundo just has some emotes. I don't know what you're trying to communicate there, bro. Kendall James says, "Hey everyone, hope everyone is doing well. Next plugin prediction, anyone? Question mark. My gut says it's more Fortin stuff, maybe the Kali. We'll see." Carl says Kali for sure. We'll see. Brandon Sills, "It's gonna be the slapper. Put it on your guitars and it makes a slap." Damn straight. I'm actually really stoked for this release. I heard it was coming out and I got like super excited pretty much immediately. Like I'm like I know the sound of this thing, and I'm stoked to hear what you guys come up with when you get your hands on it. So let's see. Mr. Kiami says, "Hi Kendall James. I hope you enjoy your neural DSP with pedal videos." Oh yeah. So Kendall's been doing some YouTube videos, and yeah, I enjoy them. They're a lot of fun. Been using like separate pedals with the plugins and whatnot. So Gerard, my dude, what's up? Good to see you, brother. Even if it's only in the chat. We'll have to get on Skype at some point and catch up. Gerard, if you guys don't know, was the vocalist for the most recent Artist Tones video. Dude fucking knocked it out of the park. Like, honestly, like his vocals were so easy to like just massage into the mix. Like, and he was mine and the... Like I actually planned this out with John Maciel of the URM, which if you guys were here, I think 2 weeks prior to catch our conversation, he was on the live stream. But it was John and my plan to create the Thrice cover and a handful of others. And like he came to me one day in the studio and he was like, "Dude, you know it'd be perfect to do vocals? Gerard." And I'm like, "Already asked him, bro." He's on it. So yeah, so Gerard, you fucking rocked it, man. So stoked we got to work together, and hopefully we'll work on more stuff pretty soon. Let's see. Just skipping through the chat right now. There's a lot of talking back and forth, which I love. It's all good. Oh, nice. Galaxy Bulldozer says, "Hey Steve, thanks for your last video. I appreciate it, man. I'm glad you enjoyed it. That was a lot of fun. And that was actually like surprisingly a lot of effort put into that. So which I'm actually now curious to know from you guys, the people who are actually, you know, taking in this content. Did you like the collaborative aspect of it, getting additional people involved in the making of these videos? So let me know in the comments if you think that was a good idea, or I should just keep doing just solo stuff. But it was a ton of fun on my end. As I mentioned, it was definitely a lot more effort than the previous Artist Tones videos I've done. I mean, and part of that was just the difficulty of nailing the tones of the track themselves. Like I still don't feel like I got it 100% to what the original sounded like, but considering the tools that I had on hand, I feel like I did a pretty good job of getting in the ballpark. Because I mean, like, so like if any of you have watched the video, the very first like sound you hear is the intro guitar, right? So you got that doom bam bam da boom da, and like that guitar was probably like an archtop guitar run through like a specific amp or something like that. I don't have any archtop guitars. So I had to make what I have available sound like an archtop guitar, which is like really, really hard to do. Like I mangled the fuck out of like some audio tracks in trying to like recreate that tone. Like it ended up being my acoustic guitar with the pod mic pointed at the soundboard, ran through just like an aggressive EQ, and then into the archetype planey, and then like a whole bunch of other things. Like I'll go through it in the guitar breakdown video, but it was a lot of work, but I really enjoyed the process. I feel like it actually like added a lot to my knowledge as well. So I feel like I actually improved it quite a bit. Michael Van Hoyt. Van Hoyt? I'm going to guess that's how you pronounce your name. Says, hi, Steve. If I'm mixing nameless and Plini components in my DAW and I'm using custom impulse responses, does it matter which cab section falls last? Will the nameless or the Plini cab section process the impulse responses the same way? Yes. As far as I know, they should be exactly the same, especially if you're using external impulse responses. Modern Vintage, safe to assume the new plugin will be released this week. We'll see. I can't. You know I can't answer that. Oh, dude, great. Scotty Doc says the clap stuff was great and you guys nailed Black Honey. Man, thank you, dude. That song, like, I hate that song now. Like, I love the song. I love the song, but I was driving like my girlfriend nuts listening to that track. Like working on like the vocals and the guitar parts, like I just drove her fucking insane because she has to be like in the next room while I'm listening to the same thing. So it's honey on my table, honey on my, like she can't. Yeah, she was really getting annoyed with me, and bless her for being so patient with me. But yeah. Ryan Atkins asks, any news on the quad Cortex? Everything is going as scheduled. So, yeah, Doug has kind of addressed this in his personal accounts the last couple of months or so. But everything is still on schedule, set for the first tier to ship in September and releasing in November. So yeah, that's all on schedule and ready to go. Brandon Sills asks, when it comes to signal input to the plugins, is there really no rule to signal input, or is there a calibrated sweet spot with each amp? I don't know if there's like a calibrated sweet spot. I guess for me, it kind of depends on what sort of tone you want to go with. Like, the input gain is going to drastically affect like how much saturation you can add to the signal. Like, obviously, you don't want it to clip, because clipping is just going to cause like really unwanted distortion to your signal. So I would definitely say don't like pump up the input so that it's clipping. Like you obviously want to get like the signal as close to the top as you can without it clipping. But then like don't be afraid to back off of the input knob to get a little bit more clean or kind of break up vibe tones. Like a lot of like more bluesy sort of like drier tones can be achieved just by backing off of the input gain. So yeah, so there's not exactly any specific setting that would work for anyone, but yeah. Oh, Gerard says, I gotta head out, but excited to see what you're dropping and looking forward to chatting soon. Hell yeah, man. Hell yeah. All right, cool. But yeah, so there's no real set like sweet spot. It's just gonna matter like signal flow, what your overall vision for the tone is gonna be, because like generally what I normally do for a lot of these tones is you know what, I'll just show you. Let me just find a plugin that's free to do this on, or a channel. Okay. Yeah, okay. So I'm just gonna go ahead and create a new channel. So let's see. Nolly. Something that I tend to do a lot of is because I like the way that some of these overdrive pedals kind of affect my EQ curve of my signal. Usually I'll put on an overdrive, pull the drive all the way back off, so that way it kind of like, it'll end up cleaning up the signal, tightening up the low end, and then using this level to either boost into the head or back off, so that way I can get a little bit less saturation. So like I'll usually leave my input, generally speaking, where it's at, kind of back it off if I need to, but usually it stays around 0. And then using this particular level as my like either booster or backing it off again, so that way it's not as saturated. And then tonal controls as well. So that's generally what I do. Same with all the Fortin stuff, is that the hex drive pedal does really nicely to kind of give your guitar signals a little bit more like mid-forward tone. So then I take the gain, back that all the way off, use the tone knob to kind of let a little bit more brightness in, or let, or not. And then use my level knob to kind of address whether I want to boost the signal or to back it off. So that way it's a little bit more crunchy, kind of bluesy tone. Yeah. All right, cool. Back to the chat. Yeah, Galaxy Bulldozer. It's nice to see that some more guys are as crazy as me about this plugin. These plugins. Cheers, guys. Hell yeah, man. Dude, I love the position I'm in, man. Like, I get to see like what you guys love, and I get to see like you guys like respond to the stuff that we do. Like each plugin release is always like I anticipate each plugin release, not just because of like new content or new tones or whatever, but like seeing your guys' excitement is actually like it's motivating to me to see you guys so stoked on it. So I love it. Williams Aaron says, dude, I use the nameless pedals with all the neural plugins. Zool is incredible in front of a bossy. I agree. The Zool is one of my favorite noise gates, for sure. I use that. I actually used in the Thrice track, I think I used the Fortin Hex Drive. I think I used the Hex Drive in front of the Archetype Plini, and that got some really, really cool tones out of doing that. I am more 666 says, hi, Steven. When are the winners of the Riff competition announced, and how are they chosen? Will there be a public vote? Okay, so the announcement's going to go up next week. We'll do a live stream where I'm going to stream the top 20 entries and then announce the winners at the end of the stream. As far as picking the entries, that's done internally with Neural DSP. So it's myself and a handful of others that are working at Neural DSP that choose the winners. I'm curious about getting like the problem I see with a public vote, especially if your vote is for a specific person, I can see that swinging in a way that I don't want, in that the popular vote will probably win. Like that would be my fear as far as like making it a public, a publicly voted kind of system. I mean, it may seem fair because the users get to choose, but how do you regulate people saying like, oh, you're my friend, go vote for me, which I know will happen, just because, people want to game the system. And I get that. I understand that. But that's generally my fear with a public vote of the competition. So we do it internally, and we just pick who we feel represented the ideas the best, whether it's like song composition and riff writing or solos and stuff like that. Because we have a lot of really great, we have some really talented and amazing musicians working in Neural DSP. Like I feel like it goes without saying, but yeah, like these dudes know what they're doing. So I always feel confident that they choose the right people. Let's see. All right. Yeah, William Zarin concurs. He says, yeah, man, dial back that hex drive gives a real sweet breakup distortion. I agree. Okay, so Modern Vintage says, when dialing a tight tone, can you speak on or show how you dial in the amp gain versus and along with the overdrive pedal. Maybe show on the Omega plumes. Thanks. Okay, sure. I think I could do that. Carlston, what's up, dude? How's it going? I think I could do that. A tight tone. Are you talking like a tight rhythm tone? Because sometimes it's a matter of like just kind of picking for the part. But I'll go ahead and go through. So let's go with the Omega. Let me pull up my. I think that's it. Make sure my scene changed. There we go. Okay. So we are on the Alpha Omega. Okay, I gotta do something real quick. Stereo master fader, VC master fader. Okay, stereo master. This is so I get the sonar works. So that way I hear what I hear, and you guys hear 5 and 6. Oops, plus output 5 and 6. This is the stuff that I have to go through to make the stream and the recordings work. Okay, so make sure my input is correct. DI. Okay, so you all can hear that. That's good. What? Hang on a second. Let me make sure that this is coming up on that. Great. I do this like constantly where I like just make melodies for myself when I'm going through and working, like do. I don't know what I'm doing. That's okay. Okay, so how I would integrate the plumes pedal into the like a tight tone. So like already the difference between the plumes being on and off, like, so I turn the gain all the way down just to start because I want to kind of mess around with a couple of things. So like, so we hear, I gotta turn this up for a minute so I can hear what I'm doing. I apologize if this is gonna phase cancel at all. So I'm gonna mute my mic whenever I'm kind of dialing in some stuff, and then I'll unmute it to talk about what I'm doing. So already the plumes really kind of tightens up the low end on the because this is a 7-string. It's the Hoppus Magician. Check them out. Like, their guitars are fucking rad. But anyway, so like this is already a pretty bright set of pickups. Like, I would actually kind of liken these. They're custom built by Hoppus, but they are fairly bright. I would liken them almost to like a Fishman Fluence style. But there's still, like, you know, being a 7-string, there's a lot of low end. So you kind of want to tighten that up a bit. All right. So totally already forgot about that. So let's see. I mean, it does depend on like the mix as well. But, you know, after that, I'll start going through the modes. Okay. All right. So from there, I mean, like, I love the 184. So to speak on, because it all has to kind of work laterally. Like, the question, like, how do you treat the plumes pedal when dialing in a tight tone? Like, it's like, okay, that's part of the equation, right? When you adjust one part of the equation, the rest has to change as well. So like, when I think about this, I generally think of it laterally, where it's like, okay, well, I want to make sure that, like, let's say I go with like the Ribbon 121. Now this is a super bassy impulse response, especially on like the low chugs. Like I can feel the push of the impulse response. So, if I have something like that, or like the plugins are a little bit more naturally dark, like the tone's got to go up. Maybe adjust the gate up as well. Something along those lines. Okay. That's enough for me. Hopefully that helps. Hopefully that answers your question. Yeah, okay, so yeah, Modern Vintage says, my mistake. As you stated, explore impulse responses first and adjust the rest minimally. Agreed. Yeah. Because your impulse response is going to massively change the EQ curve. Like, that's normally my first step. But yeah, so like, but I still go with the plumes. Like, I still use the pedal to clean up my tone. Like, clean up like the bassiness and stuff. Yeah, William Zarin says, honestly, man, try running a custom impulse response. It really changed a lot with my tones. I'm sure you're probably kind of talking to somebody else. Dubious Daydream says, I got a Hoppus. What pickups are in those? I think these are the Interstellar, if I'm not mistaken. So this is the Magician. Gosh, I'll have to look that up. But I think that they're the Interstellar pair or something like that. They're not the Behemoth pickups. The Behemoth pickups were in the other ones, where I think that these were the Interstellar. Something along those lines. Let's see. Okay, so John Player Special 88 says, I find the low end sounds like there's cloth over the cabinet, even the mids. Okay, so there's a couple of things to address with these complaints. Like, there's a couple of like elements that could be different. Like, obviously, listening to a plugin through speakers, either computer speakers, your phone, your whatever, like, that's going to change how the audio responds. Like, it's never going to sound the same as having an amplifier right next to you. Like, I feel like Neural has gotten so far that, like, if you have a good sound system like I do, like, you'll feel that it's like, this is real. However, if you have dark pickups, if you have like, I mean, the Archetype Plini is a particularly dark plugin. Like, I find that I generally have to brighten up the tone of the Archetype Plini on the regular. Like, that's my first move whenever I go to the Archetype Plini. But there's a couple of things that you can do to do that very, very quickly, especially with the Nolly. So like, I'll go back to here. So like, so you have the master volume control. Let me make sure that I changed the scenes properly. Okay, yeah. Whoop. Just make sure you guys see this. Okay, so you have the master volume control on all of the plugins. Now, the master volume control, I think I've mentioned this before. I'm sure I've mentioned this before on previous streams, but if you didn't hear, like, my approach to the master volume control is I use this as sort of like a tilt EQ, where if you push the master volume up to its maximum or closer to its maximum, you're gonna get a lot more mid-range and low mids. It's gonna darken up your tone. But for your instance, where you think like where we say that like your lows feel like there's a cloth over them and like it's a little too overpowering, I would imagine. Back the master off, and you can actually get your tones to thin out a little bit. Like so, I'll just demonstrate here. So there is a vast difference. Actually, even better, one thing that I love about the archetype Nolly, and I'll show you this right now, is that when you bring up the Nolly, it also has the master volume control, which does the exact same thing. However, the master volume control has volume compensation. So as you push it up, the volume's going to stay relatively the same. Obviously, you'll lose a little bit of volume once you start backing it off all the way, but for something like this, like you tend to, like I said, it's sort of like a tilt EQ where you start to like kind of darken up the sound when you boost the master. When you back it off, that's when you start to thin out the tone, brighten it up a little bit more. So hopefully that helps. Okie dokie. Shooby-doo. Okay, so Matthias asks, do you have any experience with Charvel guitars? I'm eyeballing the new Pro Mod Cal Style 2 in matte black. Looks sick, and it's loaded with Fishman Fluence open cores. I don't have much experience with Charvel. They were always a good brand, though. Like, I played a couple back when I worked in the guitar shop, and they were always, like, good, solid feeling and solid sounding guitars. I don't think you could really go wrong with the... I don't think you could really go wrong with Charvel or the Fishman Fluence pickups. As I always told my customers at the guitar shop, however, always play it before you buy it. Like, to me, guitars are such a personal thing. Like, and this came from like 12 years of selling guitars. Guitars are a very, very personal thing. To me, a guitar has as much personality as any person you see walking down the street. And some personalities match up, and some don't. So like I'm far less picky about the guitars as long as the action is good, as long as the sound is good. Then I'm not going to worry about it too much. But there's some things that like I don't like about certain guitars because it's like, well, that doesn't really fit my style, or like the action isn't quite right, the setup isn't quite right, which is adjustable always. But that's beside the point. Body style does factor into it. So like I've never been a flying V guy for me personally. Like I like flying Vs, but I personally won't play them just because I always sit down to play guitar. So you get this like hut thing going. It slides off your leg. So anyway, I'm getting off on a tangent. Charvel guitars are solid. Definitely play before you buy, just to make sure that it's what you're looking for. Okay, so Christian Enriquez says, how do you handle the mono compatibility with hard panned guitars? And I saw the mixing breakdown video of Nolly, and his tones with that presets are more defined and brighter than mine. Sorry. An aside, Michael D says, my Gibson Explorer is loud and worn in, and that's how my personality is. I feel it. I read that in my head as like Mitch Hedberg, and I loved it. It just made me laugh. So anyway, so back to Christian's question. Let's see. So how do you handle the mono compatibility with hard pan guitars? Are you like, so are you talking about like making two hard panned guitars feel like more stereo? Or are you talking about like sending two left and right DIs into a single instance of a plugin? So I'll answer both those questions. Fine. That doesn't bother me at all. Okay, so I need some water. Okay. If you're talking about getting two guitars left and right, you have plugins on each instance, right? So you have like archetype Nolly on both guitars left and right. You don't generally want to have both of those guitars have the exact same tone. You'll want to change those slightly. So I mean, like, there's a couple of different ways that you can do that. Some people, let me pull up, like, let's see, I wonder how this would work. No, it wouldn't work. Never mind. I'm not gonna worry about that. Anyway, scene change. So let's say, let's go through here and check on some things. Okay. Guitar 3 and 4. So this is the thrice track from the other day. All right, so this is the okay. I don't know if you're hearing the crackling and popping, but there's some, like, my buffer is set actually pretty low, so that way I could play like I did earlier. So now that I'm activating some stuff, it's kind of getting a little wonky. But let's talk about getting these two guitars. So like I have the Fortin Nameless hex drive going into the archetype Pliny. So there's a couple of different things that you can do to make these two guitar tracks, which they were recorded on the same guitar, and they're going through the same plugins. There's a couple of things you can do to make them not feel mono, right? So like if you're talking, making them feel more stereo. Now, the biggest thing is going to be EQ, right? And there's a couple of ways that you can address this as well. You can always dial in separate, either separate impulse responses. You could change, like, okay, so that's like, you could change the position to 50 on this one, and then on this one, hopefully this is not, yeah. So it's minor differences that are going to make it sound more stereo, more like individual guitars. So like even just this little movement here on the second impulse response to this position is going to change the EQ curve just slightly. So it's going to emphasize something on one guitar and then, you know, leave room for the other guitar to fill in on the other side. So, so impulse responses, way number one. You could always bring up like a Pro Q3 instance. Rhythm choruses. This one. Yeah, there we go. So that's one way that you could absolutely do that. So like little boosts and bumps in different areas to emphasize guitars and de-emphasize your signal on either side is going to make those feel more separated. Let's go ahead and make inactive these since those weren't on my thing. So, and then I'll go back to freezing those. Boom shakalaka. Bob's your uncle. I don't know what's going on. And then talking about mono in two mono hard panned tracks into a stereo instance. So like what I would do is I would have your DI and your two DI tracks panned hard left and right. Do not put them like 70-70 or something like that. Pan them hard left and right, route them to a bus, and have that be a stereo instance of your of like an archetype nollie or something like that. Make sure that the switch is turned to stereo mode, and what'll happen is it will process the left and right signal independently, so that way you can have those two instruments go through a single instance of a plugin, and then come out stereo, which is good. William Zarin, yeah, he says, I wish I could play everything before buying. No one around me has the things I drool over. It took me a month to buy a Strandberg. Yeah, so um, it was Scotty Dog that lives in South Africa, I think. I don't remember if you've mentioned where you're from, William, Aaron. Um, yeah, no, I definitely feel that. Like, there's some instances where it's just like you can't get your hands on a guitar, like, and that's where you start going off of like user feedback and referrals and stuff like that. Yeah, Scotty Doc says, that one dude that was, I think I'm missing part of the conversation. There we go. Yeah, he says, that one dude that was posting in the Facebook page about how he can't get a JCM 800 rock tone with the archetype nollie. Think he's trying to get the plugin to sound like a real amp through a 4x12 in his room. Yeah, yeah. Oh gosh. Like, so he has a JCM 800. So I went through the thread. I didn't post on the thread, but I did go through and read some of the comments. And apparently the dude has a JCM 800 in his room, and our guitars don't sound like it. And it's like, man, like, your expectations are not where they're supposed to be. Um, because if you say, like, there's a big difference between listening to I mean, I don't even have to tell you guys. There's a difference between listening to a plugin and listening to a stack that's right next to you. So I don't need to where's my thing? Hopefully this comes through. Um, yeah, hopefully I got a soundboard, and hopefully that actually came through. Anyway. Matthias says, thanks, man. I loved your flying V impression and the rest of your answer. And it's true, dude. Like, there's like certain guitars that just like, they're not built for like sitting down, which is how I play all the time. So like a flying V is just going to go this way. If you ever like played one of those, Ovation guitars, those are the ones that just like slide forward. Now they're obnoxious. Yeah, Michael D says, never thought of that, but that does sound like a Mitch Hedberg joke. I used to play guitar. I still do, but I used to too. Nice. George Finnegan says, got the nollie and it kills. So versatile. My Kemper has been so neglected as a result. Can't wait to get my hands on the quad Cortex at some point. Hell yeah, dude. Hell yeah. The archetype nollie like is by far like that's like the Swiss Army knife of the plugins so far. Like, and I think that was like the main goal that nollie had, is like giving you guys a tool of creation that is just so easy and like instinctual is not the right word, but intuitive, and very intuitive. Yeah, Brandon Sills, that buffer size, 256 samples, probably something like that. I've been having issues with my computer doing the blue screen of death. It just updated like a week ago, and I hadn't had any problems until like today and yesterday. But yeah, sometimes when I change buffer sizes, it goes blue screen of death. and I don't want to crash right in the middle of the stream. So yeah, unfortunately, we got to deal with some pops and some clicks every now and again, but you know, it's all good. All right, let's. I'm gonna scroll down to the bottom of the chat and then work my way back up again because there's a lot that I'm missing right now. Nicholas, yeah. Nicholas says greetings from Germany. Good to see you, man. Nicholas says, just want, yeah, so he said previously, just want to say hello today on time for the session. Glad to see you, man. Glad you dropped by. Scotty Dog says, haha, you need to soundboard a lot more. I'll do my best, man. It's a matter of finding the best points to do it, you know, because like I have it, just I don't want to abuse it. Yeah. So Michael D took care of that answer. But yeah, so to address Eric Ogreshock says he asks, how's the Quad Cortex coming along, and how about the progress of current plugins being added to it? So right now, I mentioned it before, but I have no problem going over it again. The Doug has been very. So if you guys don't know, Douglas Castro, the owner of Neural DSP, is on Instagram and Facebook, and he is very vocal about the progress of our products. So follow him if you haven't already. If you want to keep up to date, go to our website and sign up for the newsletter as well, because we always update, you know, the customers through our email list. So neuraldsp.com, and go, I think it's at the very bottom is a subscribe to the newsletter form. But yeah, so everything is on schedule. If anything, like, you know, I think that Doug has sort of mentioned, like, you know, we want to make sure that we are, you know, kind of upping our game, especially during these times, just for you guys, and make sure that you all have, you know, things that inspire you and keep you entertained and busy and working on things that are productive and awesome. So yeah, so everything is on schedule. First wave, September, release November. So far, everything is on schedule. But yeah. So that's everything's going pretty well so far. Oh yeah, Williams Aaron says he lives in Colorado. Yeah, no, Colorado is like, I feel bad. Like there's like no like good like music retailers out there. I'm feeling like really spoiled to be in California because it's just like I can throw a rock and find like a little boutique store like right next door. Like I think there's at least like three, I believe, within walking distance. Um, but yeah, it's they're all pretty close. All right. Okay, Sergey asks, hi, how can I record a finished sound in a DAW without using inserts? I don't, I mean, like, that's so dependent on the tone that you're going for. Because, I mean, to me, you dial in the tone, you dial in the tone. Any inserts that you do before or after generally are just to make it fit within the mix. I mean, like you can make adjustments to the DI to make it hit in the amp sim differently or something along those lines. But generally, anything that I put on after the plugin is usually just to either fit it in the mix or additional effects to, you know, get creative with some stuff like a tremolator or something like that. Um, but yeah, like I'm not sure exactly what you're asking for, because you can definitely get like finished tone in a DAW, just recording your DI and sending it through our plugin. Um, yeah, it's just a matter of dialing in the right tone for what you want it to sound like. That's pretty much it. All right, back down to the. Ha! Jean Borges says, is there a way of controlling the gain on the plugins as I do in a real amp with my guitar's volume? Like when you plug into an amp and lower the volume, it gets cleaner. He says, at last I made it to a Q&A. Nice. I'm glad you made it, dude. Um, Okay, I'm gonna get to you, Josh. But let me answer this question real quick. So he says, so MIDI controllers, MIDI controller with an expression pedal or something along those lines. That way you can use that to affect your controls. I did put a video on the channel. So if you search the Neural DSP channel, I did make one outlining how to use like an FCB 1010, which is a Behringer pedal. It has like two expression pedals. So assigning those to your plugin is pretty easy, especially now that we have like the MIDI mapping menu. It's a lot easier to do that nowadays. So Joshua Montmany, if you guys don't know, and you probably don't, but Josh is my editor and one of my best friends. He's been helping me kind of produce and make these videos that we've been doing over the last, I think, 2 months now. But he asks, Steven, when you're creating, recording, how do you keep yourself from murdering your obnoxious neighbors? Because they seem really annoying. I'm a nice guy. I'm not saying the urge isn't there, but I'm a nice guy. I'm like, you know what? They're going to do their thing. I'm living my best life in here. I really can't. And I would throw it all away if I were to go on a murdering spree, you know? Um, let's see. Modern Vintage asks a technical question. What's the ideal buffer size? So that depends on the sample rate. But generally, I keep mine between 128 and 256. That usually gets me like to that point where it's like seamless, near zero latency. If you go with higher sample rate, your buffer size, like that latency is actually a smaller number. So like, so if you go to like go from like 44.1 to 48 kilohertz, the buffer numbers, like the actual milliseconds, are different because of the number of samples your buffer size is set to. Um, David Gutierrez asks, a little while ago, you played some user submitted songs on the stream. Any plans to do a stream like that again? Absolutely, absolutely. So next week is going to be the announcement stream for the competition winners. But probably the week afterwards, I don't know. Like there's a couple of other things that I want to do with this Q&A as well, because I actually want to get some guests, guests on here. So that way you guys can ply them with your questions as well. So like Dave Otero is a good example of a guest that I would want to get on the channel, because he's a great producer. He uses Neural DSP products, and he's a wealth of knowledge on recording, mixing, playing just in general, production. He's awesome. Awesome dude. Connoisseur of beer as well, which I always appreciate. Let's see. Okay, so okay. So Modern Vintage expands on his question on, is there an ideal buffer size for optimum latency without any sacrifice? What exactly is sacrificed with lower buffer? Thanks. Um, okay, so the lower the buffer size, like when you get to like 256, 128, 64, etc., what you're doing is you're taxing your CPU, in a sense that your CPU is working harder to get your signal to you faster. Um, and in doing so, like what happens is I don't know if you guys heard any of the popping or clicking while I was playing the track earlier, during a demonstration, but like there's little pops and clicks that happen that are like, audio artifacts. So that's what happens when you put the buffer too small. You sacrifice, like your continuity, I guess. What happens is you can't, your CPU can't process the signal fast enough to get it to your speakers. Um, so yeah, so like I'm pretty happy usually with 256 or 128. That gets my latency to almost imperceptible level. Good enough for me to play any sort of like demos and feel comfortable with them. And yeah, so it's mainly just a CPU issue. If you're running like a humongous session, like so this this thrice session, probably one of the biggest that I've done so far. Only because I had like real instruments on all the tracks, you know, so like doing all the drums and the bass and everything, like, and the additional effects and processing that I need to do with the signals. It took a pretty heavy toll on my CPU. Yeah. Yeah, Modern Vintage says, thanks, man. I had mine at 512. I'm sure everything will feel better. Yeah, 512 is okay. I would say 512 is good for like strumming, maybe. But if you're playing any sort of like metal or rock, like where you need to pick a little faster, that delay, that latency is going to become way, 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 way more perceptible. So like, yeah, try 256 next. What I would do is I would bump the buffer size as low as it can go, like bump it lower and lower and lower. And once you start getting like popping and crackling sound, then up it to the previous stage where there was no popping or crackling. So that's the way that I would do it. Matthias asks, can you talk about routing inside of your DAW in order to record DI on a track and the signal with the plugin on another track? I don't quite know what you're asking for. So can you talk about routing inside your DAW in order to record DI? So recording DI on one track and then the signal with the plugin on another track. Oh, you're talking about actually like recording. I see. 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 Said the blind man. Um. So here's what I'm guessing. You are asking. Let's get this scene switched. I'm guessing what you are asking is recording the DI to say audio one. Like this would be my signal. And then I would have an additional track that would get the recorded like amp tone on a separate track. So that way you don't have to commit the tones later on or something like that. I'm guessing that's what it is. Correct me if I'm wrong. Modern Vintage asks, should you start at the lowest sample rate and increase it when hearing artifacts or experiencing issues? Those issues were on your i7 machine? Actually, I'm on my i9 machine right now. I actually moved everything to my apartment, so I actually have my tower behind my desk now. But I would actually do the opposite. I would go from the largest numbers and then start bouncing down. And then once you hit the crackling, that's when you would go back up to the previous one where you had no issues, no crackling. Um, oh, okay, so Matthias says yes. I hit the nail on the head. Okay, you know I can't say that I've really done that before, but let me see what I can do. Because you would ultimately want something to. Let's see. Let's route this. Route to bus 24. Actually, you know what? Here's what I'm going to do. Okay, so output's going to remain the same. That'll go to output 1 and 2. And then I'm going to do a send to bus 24. The input will be bus 24. Now I'm going to mute that so that way it doesn't sound like hot garbage. And this, I mean, hopefully this works. Hopefully my computer doesn't crash. And if it does, I apologize. Okay, so let's see. So I'm going to hit record. Oh yeah, I got to pump up the volume. There you go. So I would do something along those lines. Then after that, all you need to do is just make the archetype nollie inactive. Now you got your yeah. I think that should be pretty good too. The one thing that I would definitely want to one thing that I would recommend is just being aware of latency. Yeah, like you get a fair amount of latency doing that. So, I mean, I think it might be different if I was on a. Yeah, I'm at 128 samples right now, so that's why my computer's choking so hard. Yeah, that looks like it wouldn't be quite so good because what's happening is your signal is going into the archetype nollie, and then being fed out to the bus. The bus is now recording, so you're getting like double latency. Oh yeah, that would actually be really difficult to manage. So you would need to like bump that up to here. Let's see, I think that's generally speaking my. There we go. Yeah, that seems like it'd be a lot more problem than it's worth. You can do it, and hopefully the latency isn't as much of an issue during filming, but yeah, you could do that. Tony O asks, hey, what should the sample rate on external IRs be? The same ones as the DAW or just the highest possible? Gosh, I think that it's 44 or 48 kilohertz. I'm not 100% sure on that. I think that it's on the FAQ page. If not, hit up support at Neural DSP. I know that Seba will definitely have what you need. They'll be able to help you out. I have no idea. Modern Vintage asks, is it true Dark Glass is named after people mispronouncing Douglas's name with an accent? He said he read that recently. I have no idea. That's actually a really good question. I could definitely see that being the case, though. Because because he moved to Finland earlier on, if I'm not mistaken. But yeah, so I don't know. I'll have to get Doug on the live stream, and you can ask him personally. All right, it's so it's 2:08. So let's go ahead and start getting last questions in, so that way we can wrap this up, and then I'll get back to filming, and so I can get some content out to you guys next week. Looking forward to that. Okay, so let's see. That's an interesting question. Okay, so FX80 asks, what kind of plugins are we planning to make in the future? Are you still producing guitar-based plugins or also plugins for other instruments and tools for mixing? If not, is it getting boring and everything starting to sound the same? Okay, so the first one. So we are still continuing to make guitar and bass plugins. Like that's going to be our bag, right? Like I can't speak to what else we have planned at the moment. But to answer the last one, is it getting boring? Absolutely not. I think that Neural does take really great care in selecting which amplifiers we choose to model because we don't want to make the same one over and over again. Like each one is unique in its own way. And some people are going to like certain ones more than the others. Like that's kind of the thing is we're making very personal simulations with these. So yeah, no, I can't say that it's getting boring, especially when I see what people are creating with these products. Um, like even during the competition, there's going to be a lot of people who have made some like amazing stuff. Like there's like I end up learning a lot of what's possible just by seeing what you guys do, which is fascinating because like it's like I am supposed to be the authority on these things, but I feel like I still constantly learn from the users as well. So no, it's definitely not getting boring. And I think that we're only going to continue to grow and advance with all our algorithms and our impulse responses, our relationships with artists. I think that we are going to continue to grow and create new and more awesome things. So like, it's hard to be bored when I see so many awesome things coming in the future. Um, Now, whether the user is getting bored or not, that's up to everybody's own personal viewpoint. Um, Hell yeah! So Howard Munger says all I want to say is just discovered your plugins and they're some of the best out there. I thank you very much, man. Appreciate it. Nick Morris asks, any hints on the new plugin? Unfortunately, not. I mean, you'll see it. You'll see the next. Like some people have already gotten it. Some people have already guessed it. I'm not gonna say who because I can't. But I'm again I'm stoked to see what everybody comes. Yeah, Michael D says to Nick's question, if Steve told us they'd kill him on stream. Yeah, it's a you guys can't see it, but there's a red dot on the back of my head right now. Sniper outside the window. Um, Chris, good to see you, man. Thanks for dropping in. Chris says, good to see you doing well, Steven. Yeah, dude, things are going awesome. Really, really well here. Okay, so Robert asks a good question. Are your plugins intentionally geared towards metalheads, or do you consider other genres as well? So I think that these plugins are capable of many genres. I think that Neural has their core audience with the metal group, right? Like, so we've fulfilled a need for a lot of the metal guitar players, a lot of metal bedroom guitar players, or independent guitar players, solo players, producers, that sort of thing, where we're providing something that has been in need for a while, which is just realistic guitar amp sims. Um, and the metal community is what embraced us, especially considering that um, most of the people actually involved in the Neural DSP, like a lot of the people who are working with them, we're all metalheads. Are these plugins capable of other genres? Absolutely. 100%. I don't know if you checked out the Thrice track that I did this last Friday on the channel or not, but like I feel like they can really really do like rock tones very very well. I feel like a lot of them could do blues tones. Not every single one is going to have the same range, obviously. So like the let's see what am I thinking? There's one or two amplifiers that I feel it's like um okay, so like Archetype Nolly, if he came out with the Archetype Nolly with just the third and fourth head, those ones are very high gain amplifiers, right? So they are like the fourth one is more like a screaming lead, high saturation. The third's kind of like a block letter 5150 mod that Nolly has, and it's like it's got that really really great 5150 saturation to it, but it also has like a nice British and sort of V30 in there as well. So like the options are there. Even on the single head amps, there's usually options to be able to dial in more low gain kind of stuff. So ah, but yeah, so roundabout way of saying that I do believe that these plugins are capable of far more, but it just so happens that our core fan base and the people who have embraced us the most have been the metal players. So yeah, so it's a bit different. Brandon Sills asks, does assassinating toilet paper before it leaves the shelf at the store count as a mercenary mission, or does it qualify for inspiration to new material for other people? I mean, maybe both. I don't know. Okay, John asks, what are you drinking? So I have these, I've been addicted to these things. They're like sparkling water, bubbly, and I particularly prefer the apple if you so choose to check it out. I get them at Target. They're like $2 or $3 or whatever. But the yeah, the apple flavor is particularly good. So yeah, sparkling water. Um, yeah, Randy Epp says that middle amp in Pliny nails so many classic rock tones. I totally agree. That middle one is usually my go-to, um, for sure. Yeah, Scotty Dog. So the Grandifier with the gain down low gives me my favorite sort of clean tone, nice and dirty. Agreed, man. Like I actually dialed in some really cool like clean tones on that one. Some of my presets, I think one of them was called "Don't Mesa with These Tones" or something like that, because it kind of reminded me of like a clean Mesa style. Um, so Laszlo asks, "Hi, is the tube switching option something you're going to keep adding to the upcoming plugins?" So that is all personal to the developers, right? So like, it depends on what the artist wants. In Powered by Omega's, or sorry, in Omega Ampworks, you know, creation, in the Grandifier's creation, that's a feature that they wanted. If we get another artist on board that wants to have that feature, then yeah, we'll do that again. But it really comes down to what the artist specifically or the company wants to do. Like whether they add or don't add certain features, that's up to them. So it's a per artist or per plugin release thing. So um, I definitely want it to be an option because I love the ability to change those out, because that Grandifier sounds really sick. Like I love the EL34s and the 6L6. Being able to switch quickly between those two is actually super dope. Allows for a lot greater range of tones to choose from. Mm. Yeah, Michael D says I love bubbly too. My favorites are lemon, lime, and blackberry. Yeah, we just got a new one, blueberry pomegranate. So I'm excited to try that one. Okay, so Christian asks, excuse me if I sound ignorant, but except for the amazing UX and UI of the plugins, what is actually the difference in the tone capturing algorithms in comparison to other plugin manufacturers? It's a more effective mathematical equation to simulate the model of the amplifier. I think that's generally the way that I would describe it. It's just that it is a far more accurate modeling based on the algorithm that was developed by Neural DSP. Like we have some of the most, like legit have some of the smartest people working in our company. It's ridiculous. I feel like I'm pretty competent, generally speaking. But then I get around like those dudes, and I'm like, oh no, okay. uh, yeah. Scotty Dog chimes in on one of my previous points. He says the real physical Grandifier supports EL34, 6L6, and KT66, so it makes sense that they'd want it in the plugin, and I agree. That's something that they really want to push that on their physical model. So like that's a feature that they boast about a lot, which is nice. I mean, I love the ability to change back and forth between the two, or three, excuse me. Tony says, "Hi Steve. If it's Archetype Rebea Masad, I'll buy it. I'll insta buy it. I already own 3 plugins, Nalia Bossi and Parallax. You guys are the best makers. Thanks, man. I appreciate it. I love the support, man. Like watching you guys like get into this stuff is so cool. I can't speak to who or what this plugin is. You guys will see very soon. All right, so it is 20 past. So let's go ahead. Okay, so this is a good question. Nick Morris asks, advice for adding modulation style effects to plugins like the Granifier. Okay, so that's actually a really good question. So it depends on where in the chain you want it to be. I would definitely experiment with them, like, because I've kind of been working on a couple of different things. Like I've been using like tremolo in the last handful of projects, but it's like it sounds better in different places. So like having the tremolo like before the amp kind of changes the saturation, right? So like if you're dipping and lowering, or if you're raising and lowering the volume of your input signal, you're gonna get like saturation at the peaks, which is a very, very different style of saturation if you had the tremolo at the end, right? So I think it's just a matter of like what you want the ultimate tone outcome to look like. But I would definitely suggest like just trying a bunch of different shit out, like experiment. I think that's one of the best things about using these plugins is like you don't have to worry about cables, power adapters, or anything like that. You could just like set up a track and just go nuts, like turning off components and just like working shit like back and forth. Like it's so easy. But yeah, like it just allows you to be creative and just inspired in the moment, which I love. So as far as like, because there's no real wrong answer, is there? Like there's no real wrong answer. It's just a matter, again, of what you want the overall outcome to sound like. So yeah, Nick Morris says it's almost like the plugin needs its own effects loop. You could do that. I mean, like, it's easy enough just to set up like either multiple instances or move your plugin before or after the or the modulation plugin before or after the DSP plugin. Oh, nice. Amaya says I saved up for 3 months to buy Archetype Plini. Best decision ever. Thank you, dude. I'm stoked that you love it, man. Unicorn Poo says Tim Henson mentioned an Archetype plugin on stream the other day. Just saying. Yeah, we'll see. I've heard nothing about that, but we'll see. I don't know. I'm just fucking with you guys. Yeah, I don't know. I don't really follow Tim Henson that much. And I'm not sure if he's working with the guys or not. So we'll see if that happens. Like I've mentioned this before on previous streams where like I am usually the last to know what actually happens with the archetypes. Like it's generally speaking like I'm like, hey, there's a plugin coming out in a month. Sweet, awesome. Like I generally am the last person to know, and I actually kind of prefer it that way because then when people ask me, because this face doesn't lie very well, I can say yes or no with confidence and be like, oh, I don't know, or I legitimately don't know. Hell yeah. So Chase McCutcheon says, I bought one neural plugin, the Nameless, and was instantly hooked. A month later, I turned my laptop into a live rig because I love the neural tones so much, and the fractal just wasn't the same. I feel it, dude. I downloaded the trial for the archetype, or not the archetype, for the Nameless. This was like 2 years ago. This was before I worked for Neural. And I had just moved to Los Angeles. I was living in a lockout studio, which is like a 12-foot by 20-foot practice space, and I was working on doing a test mix for a band that I know down here, and I remember I was at Starbucks. And I was working on some tones. Had my Beats headphones on, and my little Scarlett 6i6, my Alienware laptop, and I was working on their session. And I was like, you know what? I'm going to try this thing out. They said that they liked, the Nameless, and I'll give it a shot. And so I downloaded the trial. I slapped it on the tracks, and I was just like, oh, fuck. I need this. I absolutely need this. I'm broke as fuck because I just moved to Los Angeles, but I need this in my life. So I ended up buying it like 10 minutes later. So let's see. But yeah, so that's a little background from my story. Let's see. Scotty Dog, any advice on how to get a super reliable live rig using neural DSP plugins? Definitely a CPU that's, I mean, like, it's recommended to go with at least an i5, but I would go with at least an i7 Intel processor. Um, 8 GB of RAM. Interface, usually like, I would go with at least a 4i4, like a Scarlett Focusrite Scarlett 4i4. The reason why I would go with a 4i4 is because it has a MIDI input port. So you could use your MIDI controller to control your plugins. So, because you want basically the ability to input your signal into, it's like it has a high Z input. So you have your quarter inch into your interface. And then you have your laptop or whatever's running the software. You have the signal going out to something like I mean, you can use a reamp box, but I didn't really feel like I needed it. But that's going out to like a solid state power amplifier. So something like the Seymour Duncan Power Stage 170, I believe it is. And then that goes out to your cabinet or you could even just send like a direct signal from your interface to the front of house. But that's generally the way that I would go. Nice. Yeah, Chase McCutcheon says, Scotty, I use main stage and it works pretty well. Awesome. Awesome. Nice. Deagle Bay says, about modulation, I would like to pitch the idea of an effects library where people can buy, looking to go full neural. Love your products. Yeah, man. I think that stuff is kind of in the works at this point. I'm not sure at this, but I don't think that anything is off the table for neural. Like, legitimately, I think that we're just gonna take over everything. I legitimately I feel that. Yeah, dude. John says, tasty tone is all that's needed to survive. I agree. All right. Ironness123 asks, and this was asked earlier in the stream, but I'm happy to answer this again very quickly before I call it a day. Asks, what is the optimal input level range? How do I reduce my buffer level? Is it CPU dependent? Or is it CPU speed dependent? Optimal input range would be as close to the top as you can without a clipping. So like usually what I'll do is I'll dial in the input gain. I'll get it to start clipping and then I'll back it off and I'll hit it like really hard. Like generally speaking, like I test this a lot harder than I think I'm going to play just to make sure that I don't ever clip. Cause clip DIs make me sad. So there's no real optimal range. After you have the DI recorded, then you can take the input gain and lower that if you wanted a little bit more clean or breakup tone. So that's how I would address that. How do I reduce my buffer level? So let's go ahead and just show you. Dude, oh, that's gonna go in here. Almost did something real stupid. All right, so let's go with oh gosh, this may not work. All right, if my computer crashes again, I apologize. Woo! I'm still on? Still on. All right, so, okay. So in the standalone versions, you have these gear icons at the bottom left-hand corner. So this is where you change your sample rate, your audio buffer size. So you're in your audio device type, audio device, etc. So this is where you're going to go. You're going to make sure that this is an Audio. Focusrite USB is my driver. Make sure you have the correct output and inputs selected. Your sample rate is going to be here. Now, I generally have mine set to 48 kilohertz. Some people have it higher, some people have it lower. Depends on what your rig is capable of running. Then your audio buffer size is here. Now, as I mentioned before in the stream, like I generally have my buffer size set to 128 or 256. That's where the latency feels next to zero, or is the least noticeable. But what I would do for your particular rig is I would go from the largest number and bump it to smaller numbers and take it incrementally. So that way, you know, you play it a little bit, feel how it feels, bump it lower, bump it lower, bump it lower, until you start hitting that point where you start hearing pops and crackling sounds from your speakers. That means your CPU isn't really keeping up with the audio that it's processing. So that at that point, go back to the number that was still clean. And that's your lowest buffer size that you can have, and the least amount of latency you can have. So that's how you do that. Randy Epps says, I feel it, dude. So Randy Epps says, Neural keeps making me question why I keep buying different real amps. Yeah, let's go back to my face. He says, I have a tube amp expander and I never use it to record because the plugin sounds so damn good without much tweaking. Getting a good tube tone takes a while. Yeah, no, I agree. I absolutely agree. I sold my Mesa Boogie. I had a Mesa Boogie dual rectifier. I had that thing since 2003 maybe, but I just sold it. I don't need it. I don't play live. If I do play live, I have my laptop and I have a setup that I can take my plugins and go play live. So yeah, like there's no, like I don't particularly have a need for them. I know that there are other people who do. Like I think, and this is something that I've talked about on previous streams where I've said that, you know, physical models are always going to be in need, right? Like there's always going to be somebody who wants that real tone, whatever, like, or they're going to have their special amp with their special tone or their special cabinet that they want to use like on an album or whatever. Or there's going to be a studio who has a wall of amplifiers because those are like things that people demand. There's always going to be a demand for physical amplifiers. I think that just the demand for like general users such as ourselves, like I don't see that being a thing as much anymore. So, okay. I am parched. It has been an hour and a half, and this was an awesome session. It's funny because the last this session and the last session actually went way longer than I expected, but I'm totally cool with that. You guys bring a lot of really great questions, and I'm happy to be here and happy to help. So why don't we just go ahead and call that a different day? I'm gonna answer this one really quickly. Jorge asks, "Hi, can different USB ports affect sound quality?" I would generally go with the USB 3.0 if at all possible. I've not experimented with USB 2.0, but I don't think that it's a problem. But I would definitely, that's something to maybe put up in the Facebook users group, or you can ask support@neuraldsp.com. Eric asks, will there be an update with a built-in tuner for Nolly? Yes. Matt, okay. Matt asks, how did you get the sweet gig for Neural? I asked for it. I applied, and so as I mentioned before, I had moved down to Los Angeles about 2 years, maybe a little, 2.5 years now, maybe at this point. I was assisting another engineer down here and creating content for his YouTube channel and Instagram and stuff like that. And then a friend of mine, tagged me in the Neural DSP post on the Facebook group, saying because they were looking for content creators. So I'm I made a video and a song, like mix master. I recorded, mix mastered, and sent the everything off like in a day. Because I was so stoked. I didn't hear back from them for like a couple of months at this, and then they finally got back to me and asked if I was still interested in the position, and I said, hell yes, of course I'm still interested. So yeah, then that's where I got. You know, it's like I was like, I don't know, like it was a very interesting feeling being somebody who was very outside of the company, who was accepted in, but they liked what I did. They liked my content. They liked my approach. They liked my energy, and they felt that it fit the company because they were looking for somebody to create the content and be sort of the face of the company. Um, and I know that they were looking at other people as well, which is one of the reasons why it took so long to get back to me. Was they were trying out other content creators. So yeah, so I asked for it and I qualified, and then I just jumped at the opportunity. So yeah, and now I'm here. Like, legit, I've now worked for them for like a year. It's insane. Like, being a YouTuber for a year, it's awesome. Yeah, Matthias, thanks for stopping in, man. Tonio, is it okay to repost an IGTV video with a competition tag, or is it going to mess up the entry? Don't worry about it. If you, yeah, don't worry about it. We're good. Um, Thanks, guitar memo. He says congrats. He asks, will there be a Tim Henson plugin for Neural DSP? I don't know. Um, Edgar Torres, I'm sure I got it. Ironus asks, does audio interface quality affect how low your buffer can go, or is it only dependent on the computer? That's dependent on your CPU, because it's how fast the CPU processes your signal. Matt, thank you very much, man. I really appreciate it. Edgar, will there be more bass plugins? We'll see. Brandon Sills, are we allowed to showcase our entries on YouTube or elsewhere before the air date you show them? Yeah, absolutely. That won't bother me at all. They're yours anyway, so yeah. Michael says, amateur here. Do I need more or fewer sample rates? So lesser sample rate's going to mean less latency. So like between when you pluck the string and when you hear the sound, lesser numbers are going to get that sound to you faster. So you're not going to hear like a duh, duh, right? So like you want it to go duh, duh, duh. So awesome. Thank you all so much for hanging out with me. This was an awesome session. This really went a lot longer than I anticipated, but again, you guys brought a lot of really great questions. Again, this is one of my most enjoyable aspects of my job. So I appreciate you guys coming back week after week, asking really great questions and just hanging out with me, especially now that I'm kind of like locked into my apartment. it's it's fairly interesting. So this is my opportunity to, chat with you guys and have a good time. So why don't we just go ahead and call that a day here? I think I've said that now 4 or 5 times. But thank you all so much for coming out and hanging out with me. And as always, I'll see you in the next video.